All right. So the papers I handed out, we're not going to use at first. Okay. So I want you to grab your Bible. And I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 6. Verse 24. Huh? 996.
I didn't say 7, I said 7.
All right, is everybody there?
I said 7, not 7.
Everybody there in your Bible?
Yes, sir.
All right, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. All right, I'm going to read it. Y'all follow along with me. It says this. You ready? Look at your Bibles. Verse 24. No one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or, if it's not that extreme, he will be devoted to one and despise the other. Here's the important part right here. You cannot serve God and money. Now, this version of the Bible that we have says money. Other versions say mammon. M-A-M-M-O-N. Mammon is a little more than money, and this translation of money is okay, but mammon actually includes possessions, okay? Money and anything that money can buy, okay? So it says that, this is Jesus talking, by the way, you cannot serve God and material possessions or money. You can't do it. Now, we've learned in past weeks that money is the root of all evil, right? No. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money is important in this world. It's the way the world works. Okay? Years and years ago, before there was money, there was trade, and there's still trade. But nowadays, in today's society, y'all paying attention now? In today's society, money is how we trade. You know, years ago, you didn't have money. You could grow potatoes, and your neighbor down the road raised cows. You wanted some beef. You took him some potatoes because he didn't have no potatoes. And you traded potatoes for beef. That sort of thing. Well, nowadays, we don't really do it that way. We have money. And money is the God of many people on this earth. Why do I say it's the God of many people on this earth? Because everything that they focus on in their life is about making money so they can buy things with their money. Bigger, better, nicer. You know, they work all kind of overtime to make more money. And, well, I can't go to church because I got to work overtime. And they work overtime because they want to buy a boat or buy a side-by-side or a bigger house or a nicer house or whatever. But you know what happens? They buy that side-by-side for $20,000. And they got it about a year. And guess what? It ain't good enough no more. Because now they want a bigger one and better one. And now, the Sundays that they are not working overtime to make more money, to buy more stuff, they're riding their ATVs at the park or through the swamp or down at the river or whatever. Listen to me. And it ain't just about church, okay? I say church because that's kind of the biggest way you can recognize where somebody's priorities are. if you put money ahead of the things of God, Jesus said right here, you cannot serve two masters. And you have made money your master. You cannot be a follower of Jesus and care more about your money than you do your God. No one can serve two masters. For he will either hate the one and love the other, or at least be devoted to one and despise the other. Money is more important than God. Can't serve two masters. Now, I said a few weeks ago too, I want to remind you of it. The more things you have, the more money it takes to have it. I was going to use this example the other night and I forgot. For instance, we bought a swimming pool 4 years ago now. It was like $7,500. Okay? Now, that's not the end of spending money on the swimming pool. Because you got to buy salt to put in it. And when the pump tears up, you got to fix the pump. And when the timer tears up, you got to fix the timer. And that stuff happens. And you got to buy salt every month to put it in there. And if it's a chemical pool, you got to buy the chemicals. And that's even more expensive. Listen, I spent $7,500 on that pool a few years ago. I've probably spent $400 in the course of those years keeping it going, keeping the water clean and all. Well, this summer, I had to replace the pump on that pool. And I had to buy a bunch of chemicals to get the water back right. And then I had to go buy a new timer because the timer tore up again. Bought a different kind that ain't going to tear up. I've spent $1,000 this summer getting our pool ready to swim in again. So you see what I'm talking about? The more you have, the more money it takes to have it. So when you think about buying a bigger house, a bigger piece of land, a bigger and nicer and a better vehicle, a better cell phone, then you want to get a pool, you want to get a side-by-side, or four-wheeler, or whatever. The more you get, the more money it's going to take to have it. So be sensible with your spending and don't let money be your God. Self-control, which is a fruit of the Spirit, is key to biblical and responsible handling of money. Now, I'm going to be asking y'all over the next couple of weeks to finish that, because I need to know that y'all know it. Self-control, which is a fruit of the Spirit, is key to biblical and responsible handling of money. So what is the key to the biblical and responsible handling of money?
Oh, what?
What is the key to biblical and responsible handling of money? I don't hear self-control. Self-control. And self-control is a what? Fruit of the Spirit. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Listen. All right, listen to this. Last week, I wrote y'all a check up here. Y'all remember that? Those of y'all that were here? And I forgot the date. And I wrote a check to Caitlin and spelled her name wrong. Caitlin wrote a check to me for marrying them. But I forgot something on the check. I also need to make another correction.
Can the check be to me this time for $1 million?
On the line, y'all remember the line down here where you spelled out 1,000 and 00100s, right? Y'all remember that? And I told y'all listening? I told y'all that you write this line, and sometimes you write dollars right there and 00100s or 5100s, however many cents it is. I told y'all, I said, the reason you do all that and write that line is because Caitlin could come back over here and change this to say something different than $1,000, okay? But that line kind of corrects that. Caitlin wouldn't do that. She's the one who wrote me the check. I would be the one, if I wanted to be dishonest, trying to get more of her money. So I said that backwards. I just wanted to clear that up. All right. So remember there's the memo line down there that tells what the check's for? There's something else that I forgot. There's all the other stuff. I ain't going to redo it. But down here is a number right there. And then there will be a few like weird little dots and lines or whatever. And then there will be another number. Okay. And there's a check number up here. Right. Okay. All right, y'all paying attention? All right. These numbers are important. Okay? This first number on the left is the routing number. The routing number, R-O-U-T-I-N-G. Okay? That routing number identifies what bank you use. Okay? So if somebody was to run an electronic check, which we'll talk about, they'll use this number, and that number tells the computer what bank to request the payment from. Okay? Every bank is different. That's the old Atlantic Coast routing number. This number, this next number, is your bank account number. Okay? No, it's not. Atlantic Coast don't exist anymore anyway. So this, listen, this lets them know what bank to send the request for the money to. This lets them know who to send that money to. Okay? Or, I'm sorry, who to collect that money from. Okay? This is Caitlin's account number. Okay? This is not for real. This is her bank. Okay, that's a fake account number. That's just something I wrote. See, 754321. Okay, it's fake. This last number, if you're trying to pay somebody with an electronic check, you do not give them this last number past the last little dots. Okay, that number is the same as your check number. Okay, so if you give somebody, if you're paying them electronically over the phone or something, you say, let me pay with a check, electronic check, instead of writing a physical check, and you give them those last numbers included in your account number, it's not going to go through. That's your check number. Okay? Now, that leads me to talk to you about this. When you write a check to somebody, you need to make sure that it's somebody you trust nowadays. Because with these numbers on that check you just handed somebody, they can use those numbers online to buy whatever they want to buy. You need to make sure you trust the people. We no longer trust Michaela. Listen to me. That is fraud. Listen to me. And you will go to jail for that. Let me just make that clear. Okay? It is stealing and you will go to jail. All right?
Make small purchases so you don't, it's not really noticeable, so you don't keep.
Lord have mercy. Okay, listen. Let's be serious here, okay? I'm trying to teach you because if you go online or if you download Cash App or any of those other things, okay, that you got this information on, or you think that there's some kind of new thing that's kind of like Cash App, don't just put your numbers out there, because they can take your money. They can drain your bank account. They can take every penny you have out of your bank account.
Even on 90 cents?
Yep.
I ain't got nothing
Yeah.
$0.06
Listen to me. Never put your bank account information or your debit card numbers to purchase something online. I'm going to say that again because this is a very good warning. If you want to keep your money and you don't want somebody else to steal your money from you, then you never put these numbers or your debit card information online to buy anything.
I have a question.
Okay? Yes.
So you're telling me if I wanted to buy something from Amazon, I couldn't use my Nana's card's number?
You can. If not your Nana's, that's fraud,
No,
and you will go to jail.
Hey, fraud. That's not fraud. It's called borrowing.
No.
It's called my
No,
Nana's
Hey,
number.
shh. We are being, I know it's funny, we cut up, but listen, this is very serious stuff. Like, for real. What?
Like full permission, like I have permission.
Okay, so if you have permission to do that, and and you put her account information online, then somebody you've never met in your life has all the information to take all the money out of your bank account if they so choose. There are hackers out there. All right.
Listen, pay attention.
There are hackers out there, and there are thieves out there that make their living on this. Do not put it out there. If you want to buy something online, then you either need a credit card or you need to have one of these cards that you can put money on. A prepaid card, that you put that information online. That way you've only got a limited amount of money on there to pay for what you're getting, right? It doesn't have all of your money that you have to live on just put out there where somebody can get those numbers and take your money. All right? Now, credit cards are good for this, and we're going to talk about credit cards a little bit tonight. Credit cards are good for this because it's not your money. So if somebody hacks that account, they're not taking your money out of your bank account. They're charging it to a credit card. They're spending somebody else's money. Yes, it has your name on it, and if it's charged on that account, you're responsible for it. But it's different in this way. If a hacker gets into your credit card and puts a bunch of charges on there, these credit card companies, you can do a dispute. Say, look, this person's in California. I haven't been to California. I didn't spend this money. This charge is fraudulent. Put a freeze on my card so they can't charge anything else. Cancel that card, send me a new one. And then they'll open up an investigation and they'll check into things and see if you're lying. And if you're lying, then they can press charges against you because that's fraud. You're frauding the credit card company with your own card. Like if you're telling them that that ain't your charge and it really is. But if it's not, they'll investigate it, and if they judge that yes, it's fraud, then most of them will just do away with that charge because it wasn't you, it was somebody doing wrong. Okay?
Some companies, if they see it's a charge that looks suspicious, they'll call you.
Yeah.
They won't let it go through. They
Especially
call your
banks.
phone and say, hey, we've got, reported suspicious activity, please verify these transactions with these persons who make the purchase. And then you can verify, yes, you did, and no, you didn't, they put you in touch with somebody, and then you go through the fraud.
Right, you go through the process of them doing the investigation and all that. Another thing that I think is good to do, and this is how we always do it. If you go out of town, you're going on vacation or whatever, going to the beach 3 or 4 days, you're going to restaurants and eating, you're going to the gas station and getting gas, and you may go and do a little shopping and there may be vendors there and you buy stuff or whatever, and that really works for in town too. And you are more apt for your bank account to get hacked if you use your debit card out of town than you are in town. Okay? So we always use our credit cards to purchase everything while we're out of town. Okay? And then you pay it back when you get back out of your bank account. Okay? And we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, let me see what else is on my list here. All right, so let's talk about credit cards. Now, there are differing opinions about credit cards, okay? Some people say never get a credit card. And that's fine. That is perfectly fine. If you decide you don't want a credit card, that's fine. Okay? I don't have, that's fine. You do what works for you and how you feel about it. Again, with credit cards, self-control is the key with a credit card. Okay? But, what was I fixing to write up there? I don't remember what I was fixing to write up there. All right, so since I don't, pull out the handout that I gave you. It says capital 1 at the top. Oh, I know what I was going to write. Credit cards are the best way to do two things. Paying attention? Credit cards are the best way to do two things. The first thing, they're the best thing to do is build your credit. Now, y'all may or may not understand credit and how that works. That's coming in a future lesson, maybe next week. We're going to talk about credit. What is it? How do you get it? How do you handle it? What do you do with it? What does it do for you? How does a credit report look? We're going to go over all that stuff. But the second thing that credit cards are the best to do is to ruin your credit. They are the absolute best and quickest way to build your credit. But if you don't have self-control, they are the absolute worst thing for you to have. Because you can build your credit up to a wonderful credit score. You can have a 700, 750, 800 credit score. And 2 months from now, you can have a 450, which is horrible. Okay? Credit cards are the quickest and best way to build your credit, and they are the quickest and best way to ruin your credit. And that second best is why there's a lot of people that say, never get a credit card. Okay? A few things about credit cards. On this example that I gave y'all, the Capital One, look on the right side, about halfway down that top box, and it says credit limit. What is that? Huh? 15,000. Okay? Now I want you to look at something else. Look over on the left-hand side, just under the payment due date, and what is the balance on that credit card? 1,074. So that the balance is a very small percentage of the credit limit. Now, the credit limit, anybody know what that is? What does that mean? Huh? That's how much you can spend if you need to. That's how much you can charge to this credit card. Okay? You can go buy $15,000 worth of stuff if you want to with this credit card. As quick or as slow as you want to. That's your credit limit. They'll let you spend. It's like you have an account with $15,000 in it. You can spend it all or spend just a little bit of it. Okay? But it's not your money. It's their money that you're spending. Do you understand that? So, the credit limit is $15,000. The balance is $1,074. This is a very, very, very small percentage of what you can spend. And this balance on this credit card shows creditors, people who you may want them to finance a car for you or to finance a house for you. You may want them to give you a loan to, I don't know, do something. I don't know, buy something. Okay, you want a four-wheeler? You may want to get a loan for $10,000 to buy a four-wheeler. Okay? The people who you're asking to finance this for you are going to look at your credit report and say, well, how does he handle his credit cards? Oh, he could spend $15,000 if he wanted to, but he's only spent $1,074. That's pretty responsible. There's another thing they'll look at too, and we'll get to that when we get on credit reports. But let's say that the credit limit, let's just change it for a minute. And let's say you're just starting out, you got a brand new credit card, you want to build your credit, you're 20 years old, and you need to get some credit started, you get a $500 limit credit card. That's all you can spend is $500. Okay? So you take that credit card and you're like, I'm going to build my credit. And you go out that weekend after you get the credit card and you charge $450 on it. Seems right? Seems okay. I mean, you could spend up to $500 on it. What's the problem with spending $450? You haven't went over what they told you could spend, and you plan on making your payments on time. Here's the problem with that. Your credit score, a lot of your credit score, and this is why it's the best way to build your credit or ruin, they're looking at how responsible you are with the money somebody will let you spend that's not yours. So if you spend $450 right off the bat of $500 that you can, they're like, they're not really responsible. They're like, I can spend this money and I'm going to spend it. It's not responsible. You didn't have to have that 80-inch TV. But you knew you could get it simply by taking your credit card out and swiping it in the machine, and you've got a TV at the house. Easy, ain't it? That's the danger with credit cards. Because you see something you want, and you're like, I just put it on the credit card. Shling! It's at the house. That's the issue. No self-control. You don't need that 80-inch TV. You got a 55-inch TV that works just fine. Okay? So you go and spend $450 out of $500, then you've spent, 90% of what you can spend. That's the key to credit cards. You never, listen to me now, never charge more. I'm writing it down because I want you to see it. More than 30% of your credit limit. Never. Y'all hear me? Y'all hear that word? Never. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking 30% of the $15,000.
That's right. Or the $500. If I used another example, if you're like just starting out, brand new credit card, you're getting your credit started. What's 30% of $500? Not 21. Miss Rebecca, what's 30% of $500? Because I ain't got my phone, I can't figure it out. 10% would be $50, there's 30%, it's $150. Good, you're smart. So, you never spend on this $500 credit limit, you never charge more than $150 on it. Seems crazy, don't it? But creditors look at this, and your credit score is determined by how much you spend of what you can. And if you never go over 30%, then everybody that looks at your credit report is going to say, they're responsible with this credit card, and I feel like they'll be responsible with making the payments on this loan that they want me to give them. On this four-wheeler they want me to finance. On this car that they want me to finance for them. See how that works? I work in finance. I look at credit reports 30 times a day, every day of my life. 5 days a week, sometimes 6. All day long I look at credit reports. And I see people with 7 and 8 credit cards. Y'all, I lie to you not. I had a customer, this is the first time in my career I've ever seen this, like a month ago, that had 47 credit cards. 47. And guess how much they had charged up on them? Way more than 30%. Every one of them. Maxed out. Maxed out means they're spending all the money they can. Do y'all know how much of a loan I gave them? 0. Denied. No, some people do. Denied. Because what can I tell about them? They're not responsible with their money, the credit card's money. They're not going to be responsible with the money that I give them. Okay? Never charge more than 30% on a credit card. Something else on a credit card that you never, ever, ever want to do. You never, ever, 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 ever want to be 1 day late on a credit card payment. Now, if you have a bank loan, if you have a car payment, if you have a house payment, a lot of other loans, if you're a day late, because, okay, your payment's due on the 19th, but you get paid on the 20th, okay, it's not good to pay late at all. Not even 1 day. But every now and then, if some situation causes you to pay 1 day late on that type of loan, it's really not that big a deal. But on a credit card, you better not do it. Because of the way that they do the billing cycles. One of my credit cards, my payment is due on the 2nd. And the billing cycle begins on the 5th. If I don't pay until the 6th, then on my credit report, it reports me as 30 days past due. And my credit is ruined. Guess how long that stays on your credit report? 7 years. Because I missed a credit card payment 1 time. My credit score goes way down, and I can recover from that over time, okay? But creditors will see that I was 30 days late on a payment for 7 years. I had a customer call me the other day, mad because her last payment, she paid like 47 payments on time. Never a day late. Never 1 day late. Perfect customer. The last payment, she was 30 days late on. The very last payment. Wasn't even a full payment that was still owed. And her credit report showed that, and she got denied credit by a creditor when she had otherwise great credit. And the creditor said, no, we won't finance this for you because she was late on that payment 1 time. That's how important it is.
Some people who get to that point where they're at that last payment and they think, okay, I don't have a full payment. It's okay. It's not going to be a big deal if this one's a little late.
It is a big deal.
But it is, and they don't realize that until after they face it.
Something else about credit cards. If you don't pay on or before the due date, listen, most of them charge you a $25 to $35 late fee. So then you got to pay your regular payment still, plus you got to pay a late fee. Okay? Now, look at this Capital One credit card statement. Just to the right of the balance, it says minimum payment due is $15. So on this $1,074 that this person owes, that's how much they charged on this credit card. All they have to pay on their due date to keep in good standing and not be counted late is $15. That's all they got to pay. Now, they still owe $1,074, but all they really have to pay is $15. there's a problem with that. And it's the way that they charge interest. And I'm going to show you that. I think it's it's right under there. Look right down below that. It tells you about the late payment warning. It tells you about the minimum payment warning. Let's read that minimum payment warning. If you make only the minimum payment each period, you will pay more in interest and it will take you longer to pay off your balance. For example, if you make no additional charges using this card, you don't charge nothing else on this card, and you make the minimum payment, you will pay off the balance shown on this statement in 12 years. That's making a payment every single month of $15, and you never use your card again. And the next box says, and you will end up paying an estimated total of $2,947 for that $1,074. And you got a bill you're paying every single month. Now look below that. It gives another example. It's like, okay, you don't make the minimum payment. You want to pay some extra on this credit card, more than your regular payment. If you pay $44 a month, it'll take you 3 years if you never charge another thing on the card, and you'll pay back $1,583. Okay? Why is it more? Because these people don't do this for free. They don't let you spend their money and they're not making anything off of it. It's called interest. And interest is the amount of money a company charges to let you use their money. Okay? So the balance is $1,074. If you make the minimum payment for 12 years, you'll pay them back $2,947. They just made $1,900 off of you. You paid them $1,900 to use $1,074 of their money. Y'all see how that works? If you buy a car, okay, and let's say your car payment's $350. I'm going to need somebody's calculator. And most cars nowadays, they're financing for like 72 months. $350 a month for 72 months. Okay? That's how many payments you'll make on this car, as long as you pay it on time. Because if you don't pay it on time, you'll wind up paying more than 72 payments because you got extra interest and late fees and all that. In the end, after 72 payments of $350, you will have paid them $25,200. Here's the problem. Not really a problem, but here's the thing about financing. You paid them $25,200 on a car that the price was $16,500. Y'all see? That was the price of the car. But this company said, I'll pay for this car for you. And you can just pay us back $350 a month for 72 months. There's a price for that. They don't do it for free. They're going to make money. And it's the difference between this and this. $8,700 something. I'll give you an example. And I'm running out of room here. I'll give you an example. Okay, so my house payment, including taxes, property taxes, and homeowners insurance, is $1,000 a month. Okay? That covers property taxes and insurance, okay? So I don't have to pay those separate. We'll get into that kind of stuff too. No, you cannot have $1,000. But I think my regular house payment is I think it's like $650. Okay? Now I have to pay the bank $650 for 30 years. Okay, that's how many months?
30 years?
Yeah, 30 times 12. No, 30 times 12. 360. So 650 times 360, $234,000. K means thousand. Is what I'm going to wind up paying for my house at the end of the 30 years. Y'all know how much the price was on my house when I bought it? $151,000. And I've got a good interest rate. So just be prepared. Listen, you can't get mad at a company that you borrow money from for the amount of interest that they're charging you. Because you agreed to it when you signed the paper, okay? If you want to finance a car and you can't pay cash for it, you're gonna pay somebody interest. Interest on a credit card is worse than interest on any other type of loan there is. It's called revolving interest, and it's terrible. So here is what I want you to know more than anything that I've said about credit cards yet. Remember, the key to biblical and responsible handling of money is what? Self-control. So when you make a charge on a credit card, you slide that card for whatever you're buying all through the month. This is what you must do if you don't want to pay a bunch of interest to these people for spending their money. Never, here's another never, charge more than you can pay off next month when you get the bill. If you see something that you want or need, and you think, well, I'm going to use my credit card to buy it, and it's $400. You got a $1,500 credit limit on your card, so that's under the 30%, so you're good with that. You're protecting your credit. If you cannot pay that $400, when this bill comes in the mail, or you get your notification on your phone, or you look in your app, or however you get your bill, because you're going to get one every month in your email or something. When you get this bill, if you can't pay everything that you owe on it, don't charge it. Y'all hear me? Because that's where people get in a mess. They charge money on their credit cards, and then when they get their paycheck, and they see that all they got to pay is $15, and they see something else that they'd rather buy with their money from their paycheck instead of paying off their credit card balance. So they talk themselves into just paying the minimum payment or a little bit more. And then they get charged interest. And then it takes that much longer to pay off the balance. Interest on credit cards are terrible. Let me give you an example. If you pay $15 on this $1,074, that's all you got to pay, but guess how much is going to go to that balance? About $5. They made 10. So you just reduced your balance by $5, and now you owe $1,069 still. And what happens is people do this and do this and do this, and all of a sudden now they owe thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on credit cards, and they can't afford to do anything but pay the minimum payments. And for years and years and years, they're just paying and paying and paying and paying, and they're at their credit limit because they kept using their cards. They don't have any more money that they can spend on it because they maxed it out. On that $15,000 credit limit, they owe $15,000. And they only pay the minimum payment, and 90% of the minimum payment goes to interest. And they're getting nowhere. And now they can't afford to pay their credit card payments. And guess what happens then? They get behind on their payment because they can't hardly make it from payday to payday. in their life when it comes to finances is ruined. Never charge more than you can pay in total the following month when you get that bill. Never. And when you get that bill, if you see that you owe $1,074.83, that's how much you pay them. Okay? All right, I'm going to quit right there. Credit cards are the best way to build your credit, and they are the best way to ruin it. And you must handle credit cards responsibly if you have them. Let me give you this piece of advice before I hush. Listen to me. If you get a credit card, okay, you get to 18 years old or whatever, and you're like, okay, I need to build my credit. You get a credit card, and a couple of months down the line, you realize, okay, I don't have the self-control that it takes to pay off my balance every month. You need to cut it up and throw it away. Pay off the balance, leave them alone. Because they will ruin you financially. Okay? Anybody have any questions about credit cards or anything we talk about tonight? What time is it? Okay. Next week, I'm going to talk about another really good thing about credit cards, and it's called credit card rewards. I'm going to tell you how instead of you paying them to use their money, they can pay you to use their money. Y'all hear me? There's a way to do that. They will pay you to use their money. But you have to be responsible. And we'll talk about that next week. You got to come next week to see. All right? Let's pray real quick.